Often when I tell people I'm from Moldova, they say, I heard that's beautiful. They didn't. They're thinking Maldives. Moldova is landlocked. Which is great because it's not very attractive to tourists, but it's very accessible by tank. Sometimes when I tell people I'm from Moldova, they say, I went to Croatia this summer. I didn't.
Good morning. It's Tuesday, Trump Tuesday, March the 10th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have Varney and Company, motivation, meditation, and President Trump. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. Now, Stu Varney.
Good morning, Maria. Good morning, everyone. The president says the war is very complete. America appears to be in a winning position. Iran's drone and missile attacks have declined. The Straits of Hormuz are not blocked. If the Iranians try it, they will be hit 20 times harder, says the president. The French will deploy 8 ships and an aircraft carrier to escort ships in the Gulf. The president says the war will be over very soon. His words. General Kane said this morning there have been 5,000 strikes so far in the war. Dozens of bunker-buster bombs have been dropped. Today will be the heaviest day of strikes so far. The price of oil, well, that's come down all the way down to $90 a barrel. It's now $88.94. Remember, it hit $119 on Sunday night. There was a stunning 1,100-point swing for the Dow Industrials Monday, modest selling in pre-market trading today. Dow's off about 90, minor loss for the S&P and for the Nasdaq. Bitcoin moving to around $70,000 a coin, 70,500. Gold, 5,100 still. We're at, no, 5,200, just made it, up $100 this morning. Interest rates a little lower. We have the yield on the 10-year Treasury actually now moving up, wouldn't you know it, to 4.12. And the 2-year, I'll wait to see it on the board, then I'll know what it is. It's 3.56. There you have it. On the show today, extensive delays at airports. You are advised to arrive 3 hours before a domestic flight, 4 hours for international. Long lines at TSA checkpoints. Senator Schumer is holding up funding for Homeland Security. TSA agents are not getting paid. Some of them are calling in sick. Others are leaving the service. Long lines at TSA. And there's more pressure for Schumer to fund Homeland Security. Improvised explosive devices have made their appearance in New York City. 2 men arrested under questioning. One of them said they wanted a bigger event than the bombing of the Boston Marathon, which he said only killed 3. The New York Post reports a coded message went out from Iran after the killing of Khomeini. It's considered an operational trigger, possibly activating Iran's sleeper cells inside America. That's chilling. Yet Senator Schumer still refuses to fund Homeland Security in time of war. There is a bright spot. 5 members of the Iranian women's soccer team have been granted asylum in Australia. Some of the team stayed silent when the Iranian national anthem was played. They were labeled traitors. They were scared to return home. They can stay in Australia. It is Tuesday, March 10th, 2026.
Thank you. When conservatives validate themselves, liberal supply dries up. You're no longer a source. You're a mirror, reflecting back liberal emptiness instead of absorbing chaos. That kind of strength is like a fortress to liberals, impenetrable, cold, invincible. So yes, they'll hate it, but that's not your concern. Your concern is rising above the dysfunction, not entertaining it. To validate yourself is to stop waiting for permission to feel worthy. It's to stop believing that your value depends on how well you please the unpleasurable. It's to reclaim your narrative and say, I don't need liberal applause to know I'm doing well. I don't need liberal acceptance to walk tall. That's not ego. That's healing. That's transformation. That's what liberals fear most. Someone who sees clearly and stands firmly even when no one claps. So, build that foundation inside. Speak truth to yourself. Celebrate your quiet victories. Confront your flaws without shame. And most of all, remind yourself daily that your value isn't a negotiation. It's a revelation. And once you've seen it, really seen it, there's no going back. That's how you break free. That's how you win. That's how you make the liberal irrelevant. Not with hatred, but with unshakable, unapologetic self-worth. When you achieve success, especially without a liberal's involvement, you strip away the foundation upon which they've built their sense of superiority. Liberals thrive on being the center of attention, always positioning themselves as indispensable, often taking credit for what they don't contribute to. They want to be the puppet master behind every accomplishment, every victory, regardless of whether they've earned it. The mere thought of someone succeeding without their influence without them taking the spotlight is a direct affront to their inflated self-esteem. It's a challenge to their very identity. But the truth is, success is not a product of someone else's manipulation or control over you. Success is the culmination of your own hard work, dedication, and personal growth. When you rise and claim achievements on your own terms, untainted by liberal interference, you send a clear message, not just to them, but to everyone around you. You are capable. You are enough. You don't need liberal validation or approval to thrive. The liberal, on the other hand, cannot tolerate the conservative's rise because the moment you shine without them, the moment your success no longer requires them to be part of the equation, they feel the sting of insignificance. They crave the role of gatekeeper, the one who decides who succeeds and who folds. When that power is taken away from them, when someone proves they can achieve greatness on their own, it exposes their irrelevance. Your growth becomes the liberals' nightmare. It forces them to confront the uncomfortable truth that they were never as essential as they believed. For a liberal, everything is about control. They want to maintain a chokehold of your accomplishments, feeding off the admiration and recognition that comes with it. When you find success in your own right, it's a direct challenge to their control over you. It threatens their narrative that they are the indispensable force behind everything. Liberals often have a fragile ego beneath their grandiose exterior, and your success without them is like a mirror reflecting their deep insecurities and self-doubt. You see, liberals need to be needed. They want to be your source of validation, your reason for triumph. But when you prove you don't need them, it breaks the illusion they've carefully crafted for themselves. It tells them that their presence in your life, their influence, is inconsequential. This is what truly burns them. The truth that they aren't needed for you to succeed, and more powerfully, that their manipulation and control didn't shape your journey one bit. So, rise and unapologetically rise in your own power. Do not shrink or dim your light to appease them, or anyone else for that matter. Your success is yours to own, not to be shared or divided with someone who would claim your achievements as their own. When you flourish, when your growth and accomplishments speak for themselves, you expose the liberals' hollow claim to significance. You reveal the truth of who you are, and it's far beyond anything they can try to control. In their eyes, your independence is a failure on their part. Back in a minute. Thank you. So with Varney, the Homeland Security issue, that is being held up by both parties, but the Republican Party is in charge. They could pass it tomorrow if they wanted to. And I believe they will, eventually, they will pass it by simply nuking the filibuster. They have what they call the nuclear option. And so they just nuke the filibuster, pass the bill on a straight majority vote, and they're done. But the Republicans refuse to do so. Why? Money. Money, 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 money. Both the Democrats and the Republicans like this impasse because it gives them the opportunity to fundraise. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, motivation.
I know you don't want to do it. I know you just want to listen to that little voice that comes to you when you hear that alarm go off in the morning, or when you're feeling tired or weak or sick of the grind. You want to listen to that voice that tells you it's okay to take the day off. It's okay to back down. It's okay to not try anymore.
That voice, the one telling you it's okay to slack off, is the same voice that will keep you stuck where you are. It's the voice of comfort, of staying the same, and it's as tempting as it is dangerous. This voice, it's sneaky. It makes excuses sound reasonable, laziness feel justified, and quitting seem like an option. But it's all a trap.
You've got to recognize that voice for what it is, a barrier to your success. It's not your friend or your ally. It's the enemy of your potential. Every time you listen to it, you give away a piece of your progress, a chunk of your dreams. When you hear that little voice start to kick in, shut it down immediately. Do not listen to that little weak voice. That weakness in your head is trying to get you to take the easier route. And that easier route may be easier in the beginning, but it will prove to be longer and more painful than the hard route.
And what's the hard route? The hard route's getting up when you know you need to get up. It's studying when you know you should be studying. It's getting to work on time when you need to be working. It's putting in those extra reps when you know you need to stretch yourself to get stronger.
You need to cultivate a different voice in your head. The voice of resilience, of determination, of grit. This is the voice that says, get up, even though you're tired. It's the voice that tells you to keep pushing when everything in you wants to stop. This is the voice of a champion, and it's the one you need to listen to.
Remember, the path to greatness is littered with challenges, but these challenges are not there to stop you. They're there to test you, to make you stronger, to prepare you for what's to come. Every time you overcome a challenge, you grow. You become more than you were before.
When you can get to the point where you are willing to do what sucks every day and continue to get stuff done no matter how much you don't feel like doing it, you will change everything in your life for the better.
The most successful people in the world are the ones who can go against their feelings and do things that are hard, independent of their feelings, toward the mission they set out to complete.
I need you to flat out decide, what's it gonna be? Are you gonna get up and get things done today? Yes or no? Are you gonna study today? Yes or no? Are you gonna put in the work to improve yourself today? Yes or no? Stop leaving room for negotiation with your feelings and emotions. Your feelings will never cooperate with your dreams. I need you to separate yourself from your feelings and disregard them. Because when you can take control of them, you will become a disciplined, goal-achieving machine.
This is where you transform, where you become unstoppable. It's not just about doing the hard stuff. It's about loving the challenge, embracing the struggle. Your potential is limitless. When you push past what you thought was possible, when you defy your own limitations, that's when you truly start living. You're no longer a slave to your comfort zone. You're a master of your destiny. Every step forward, every task completed, it's a victory. It's a testament to your strength, your willpower, your determination.
Turn your ambitions into action. Let every heartbeat, every breath be a reminder of your goals. This is your time, your moment. Push harder, go further, be bolder.
You're not just doing this for today. You're setting the stage for tomorrow, for the rest of your life. Every decision, every action is a building block for your future. This isn't just about the goals you achieve. It's about the person you become in the process.
And that was Motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now a little meditation. that was a little bit of meditation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the Mossad.
The screen flickered inside a dimly lit room on the outskirts of Damascus. Two Mossad operatives sat motionless, their eyes locked on intercepted footage, showing a convoy of black SUVs cutting through the desert. Every pixel of that image represented years of pursuit, years of tracking one of the most elusive men in the Middle East. "We've got movement from the Quds Force channel," one whispered in Hebrew. The other leaned forward. "It's him. The ghost is moving." And just like that, the hunt reignited. Before we dive deep into this operation, make sure you've subscribed, because what you're about to hear isn't fiction. These are the real declassified events of one of Mossad, Sia's most secret missions. A story that reshaped the Middle East forever. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now. And let's get into it. Qasem Soleimani wasn't just any commander. He was the shadow strategist of Iran's military ambitions, the mastermind behind the Quds Force, the elite arm of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. He built Tehran's influence across the region not with speeches, but with proxy wars. In Lebanon, his allies armed Hezbollah with tens of thousands of rockets. In Syria, he orchestrated Iran's military presence to keep Bashar al-Assad in power. In Iraq, he built and controlled powerful militias loyal only to him. To Israel, that made him the most dangerous man alive. Every rocket that landed on Israeli soil, every drone that breached its airspace, and every militia that circled its borders traced back to Soleimani's strategies. Mossad gave him a code name, the Ghost. Soleimani had a talent for invisibility. He changed routes at the last minute, never used the same aircraft twice, and often traveled disguised as a civilian diplomat. He appeared suddenly in Aleppo, then vanished into Baghdad. Western intelligence services saw his movements as unpredictable chaos, but Mossad noticed patterns. He always traveled personally to oversee crucial operations, and his presence meant something big was about to happen. Inside Mossad headquarters in Tel Aviv, the walls of a restricted operations room were covered with satellite images, intercepted communications, and red string lines connecting dots across Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon. It was the beating heart of a years-long project, the Soleimani File. Every detail, from flight manifests to radio frequencies, was recorded. Dozens of analysts worked in silence, piecing together fragments of information to build a digital shadow of the man himself. The surveillance extended deep into hostile territory. Israeli cyber units infiltrated communication networks of Iranian-backed militias. Electronic listening posts in northern Israel, Cyprus, and the Red Sea intercepted encrypted transmissions. Mossad's human assets, carefully placed over years, reported from inside Iraq and Syria. Each small clue was filtered and cross-checked until a larger picture began to form. What emerged was terrifyingly clear. Soleimani wasn't merely coordinating defenses. He was engineering an offensive strategy meant to encircle Israel. He was supplying Hezbollah with guided missile technology, setting up drone bases in Syria, and attempting to establish a permanent corridor of Iranian control from Tehran to the Mediterranean. To Mossad, this wasn't just influence. It was preparation for a future war. That realization changed everything. The Israeli government authorized a covert directive to track Soleimani continuously and without restriction. The mission wasn't simply to monitor him, it was to understand his mind, his routines, his weak points. Mossad called it Operation Shadow Net. By 2017, Israel's intelligence web had expanded across the region. Spy satellites from OFEC units hovered above Syria, tracking every vehicle that left Damascus International Airport. Drones disguised as commercial surveyors flew along the Iraqi border. Hidden cameras captured footage of convoys leaving Iranian bases under cover of night. Mossad operatives disguised as journalists, engineers, and contractors operated in cities where being Israeli was a death sentence. Through this network, Mossad learned that Soleimani often hand-delivered instructions to field commanders, especially in Syria and Iraq. He believed sensitive plans were too dangerous to transmit digitally, making his personal travel essential to Iran's regional dominance. Ironically, that devotion to secrecy became his greatest vulnerability. Still, he remained elusive. Several times, Israeli analysts believed they had his convoy pinpointed, only to learn it was a decoy. Mossad learned the hard way that Soleimani's security protocol was nearly flawless. His motorcade changed formation mid-route, and his communications were routed through intermediaries. Even the CIA, with its vast reach, had failed to maintain consistent eyes on him. But Mossad had patience, and time was their greatest weapon. In 2018, the operation entered a new phase. A cyber breach into Iranian aviation databases revealed partial flight schedules linked to senior Revolutionary Guard officials. Cross-referencing those logs with on-ground surveillance began to narrow Soleimani's movements. Over months, a pattern appeared. His flights from Tehran to Damascus, then unannounced trips from Syria to Baghdad, often aligning with major Iranian operations in the region. Each step of the way, Mossad tightened the net, not to strike yet, but to understand. To them, intelligence wasn't about pulling the trigger. It was about owning the map. Every route, every meeting, every bodyguard's face was cataloged. By late 2019, the Israelis could predict Soleimani's next move with chilling precision. Then, a report changed everything. A Mossad informant embedded in Damascus intercepted chatter suggesting Soleimani planned a high-level meeting in Baghdad to coordinate Iranian-backed militias against U.S. and Israeli interests. The date wasn't fixed, but the tone of the communication was urgent. Something big was about to happen. And for the first time in years, Mossad believed they could catch the ghost off guard. Inside the Glilit compound in northern Tel Aviv, senior officers gathered around a dimly lit conference table. On the wall hung a single satellite image, the route from Damascus to Baghdad International Airport. The room was silent until the director spoke. We may not get another chance. If we confirm this movement, we act immediately. The decision was clear. The hunt had reached its final act. Every piece of equipment, every agent, every satellite would now be focused on one man. Soleimani had cheated death for decades, surviving wars, bombings, and political purges. But this time, Mossad wasn't chasing a rumor. They had the timing, the location, and the confirmation. All they needed now was the moment. That moment would come on January 3rd, 2020, on a dark runway in Baghdad. when a shadow finally caught its ghost. By late 2019, the walls of Mossad's underground operations center in Tel Aviv looked less like an intelligence office and more like a war room. Maps of Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon were pinned with tiny digital beacons. Drone feeds from the Iraqi desert streamed on a dozen monitors. Photographs of convoys, safe houses, and suspected operatives lined a black wall like a living storyboard. This wasn't just surveillance anymore. It was preparation for an operation that had been years in the making. For Mossad, the challenge wasn't only following Soleimani. It was turning fragmented intelligence into an actionable plan while operating deep inside hostile territory. Iranian-backed militias controlled large swaths of Syria and Iraq. Their intelligence networks were ruthless. Any trace of an Israeli operative in those zones could mean instant death and an international scandal. To manage that risk, Mossad relied on a three-pronged system: signals intelligence, satellite reconnaissance, and human assets. Cyber units tracked encrypted communications between Quds Force commanders. Israeli satellites, positioned high above the Middle East, monitored airports, convoys, and warehouses linked to Iranian operations. And on the ground, Mossad's most trusted human sources, painstakingly recruited over years, sent updates from inside militias, airports, and even local security forces. But as precise as this web was, it couldn't pull the trigger on its own. Mossad needed a partner with reach, firepower, and legal cover. That's when coordination with foreign intelligence, especially the CIA, became indispensable. While the U.S. had the drones and the legal authority to conduct strikes in Iraq, Mossad provided what Washington lacked: real-time intelligence on Soleimani's movements. The cooperation wasn't new. Israeli and American agencies had worked together for decades on joint operations, from sabotaging Iranian nuclear facilities to tracking Hezbollah leaders. But this time, the stakes were higher. Soleimani wasn't hiding in a bunker. He was traveling openly, surrounded by layers of security, in countries where U.S. and Israeli operatives were constantly under threat. The operation required synchronization at a level never seen before. Mossad operatives embedded in Damascus and Baghdad tracked Soleimani's every step. A network of covert sensors placed near key roads monitored convoy movements. Cyber teams intercepted messages between his aides and field commanders. Each piece of intelligence was fed into a secure joint operations cell, where Israeli and American analysts worked side by side. By mid-December 2019, a picture began to emerge. Soleimani was preparing for a high-level trip to Baghdad to meet leaders of Iraqi militias. Mossad's intercepts showed he planned to land at Baghdad International Airport under diplomatic cover, believing himself untouchable. It was the opening they had been waiting for.
Summer's wrapping up, and life is picking back up. Early mornings, long days, and
himself untouchable. It was the opening they had been waiting for. Yet even with the intelligence, the mission teetered on a knife's edge. Soleimani was notorious for last-minute changes. He often used decoy convoys or switched flights at the last moment. Mossad analysts pored over satellite images, cross-checked flight manifests, and tracked encrypted phone calls to predict his exact arrival. The margin for error was razor thin. Inside Mossad, a debate raged. Some operatives wanted to capture him alive, believing his interrogation would reveal Iran's deepest secrets. Others argued that such an operation would be impossible without sparking a regional war. The directorate ultimately ruled out capture. This would be a kill operation, clean, quick, and deniable. To make that possible, Mossad needed to map not only Soleimani's route, but also the timing of his security bubble. They studied his motorcade patterns, the positions of his bodyguards, and even the thickness of the armored SUVs he used. They learned how long it took him to disembark a plane, how fast his convoy accelerated from the tarmac, and which gates he used to exit airports. This wasn't simply intelligence, it was choreography. A deadly ballet planned to the second. On the ground in Iraq, the risks multiplied. Iranian-backed militias dominated security at Baghdad International Airport. Any hint of a foreign operation would have triggered immediate retaliation. To avoid detection, Mossad relied on local intermediaries and cutouts, assets who could blend in with airport staff or Iraqi security forces. These operatives provided real-time updates on which vehicles were parked near the runway and which VIP corridors were being prepared. Simultaneously, Israeli cyber teams hacked into local surveillance cameras, giving them eyes on the ground without exposing agents. Drones equipped with ultra-quiet engines loitered miles away, streaming infrared footage back to Tel Aviv. From thousands of kilometers away, Israeli analysts could see the glow of vehicle engines, the movement of bodyguards, even the heat signatures of passengers inside armored cars. But the operation wasn't just about knowing where Soleimani was. It was about ensuring no one knew that Mossad knew. That meant misdirection, feeding false intelligence into channels Iran might intercept, planting decoys, and masking digital footprints so the operation appeared to be an American initiative alone. By late December, the plan had crystallized. Soleimani would arrive in Baghdad on January 3rd. Mossad operatives would provide live tracking of his plane, his convoy, and his movements on the ground. The CIA would execute the strike using armed drones stationed in the region. If everything went to plan, the world would wake up to headlines about the death of Iran's most powerful general, and no one would know how deeply Mossad's hand had been in it. In Tel Aviv, senior officers gathered for the final briefing. On the screen was a satellite image of Baghdad International Airport. Red circles marked the arrival gate, the convoy route, and the kill zone. Every contingency was discussed. What if Soleimani switched cars? What if his convoy split? What if the strike missed? For each scenario, there was a backup plan. This was Mossad at its most meticulous. Years of surveillance, months of coordination, and weeks of planning had built to this moment. But even as they prepared, the operatives knew that one wrong move could expose them and plunge the region into chaos. In the dimly lit room, the director of the operation summed it up in a single sentence. "We are no longer tracking the ghost. We are walking with him." The air above Baghdad shimmered in heat and silence. A few hours before dawn, the city was half asleep, its streets patrolled by tired soldiers and restless cats. But in one corner of the city, near the long runway of Baghdad International Airport, the calm masked something electric. A silent convoy of black SUVs was approaching, headlights dimmed, engines purring. Inside one of them sat a man whose very presence had reshaped the Middle East. Qasem Soleimani, the commander of Iran's Quds force. From thousands of kilometers away, in an underground command center, Mossad's screen operators leaned closer. Their feeds, live satellite visuals, intercepted radio chatter, drone thermal signatures, all pointed to one conclusion. The ghost was in play. For years, he had slipped through their net. Tonight, he was exposed. The mission, months in preparation, was now unfolding in real time. On Israeli monitors, the convoy's position updated with every turn. Coordinates flowed seamlessly to a joint operations channel, the one linking Mossad's tracking grid with American strike control. The world was asleep. But in those rooms, every heartbeat felt like a drum. The operations choreography was near perfect. Mossad's cyber units had breached multiple communication networks, not to jam them, but to listen. They heard security commanders report the convoy's route. They watched as Soleimani's guards switched vehicles at the terminal believing their routines made them invisible. What they didn't know was that each maneuver had already been predicted, recorded, and logged by Israeli analysts days before. Meanwhile, in the skies south of Baghdad, 2 MQ-9 Reaper drones loitered at altitude, invisible in the night. They weren't Israeli, but their eyes depended on Israeli precision. Every signal, every movement of the convoy came from Tel Aviv's grid. Mossad had done what it did best: turn patience into a weapon. Inside Baghdad's airport, an Iraqi militia commander named Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis waited for his guest. Their meeting was meant to be short, a debrief after weeks of regional tension. Both men were confident. Neither believed they were being watched. The world had tried and failed to strike Soleimani before. He had crossed borders, survived bombings, and outplayed enemies from Beirut to Kabul. But tonight, every move he made was being mirrored in real time on Mossad's digital wall. At 1:03 a.m., the convoy left the airport gates. The motorcade rolled slowly, unaware that somewhere above the clouds, the drones had received confirmation. The first car carried bodyguards, the second held Soleimani and al-Muhandis, and the third contained local escorts. At 1:07, the first missile hit. The explosion tore through the quiet of the night, a flash of fire that split the desert air. In the command center, operators didn't cheer. They watched in silence as infrared signatures bloomed across the screens. One flare, then another. The second missile followed seconds later, hitting the car carrying Soleimani himself. Within 20 seconds, the entire convoy was gone. The world would later argue about who pulled the trigger. But what the cameras didn't show was how much of the groundwork had already been laid long before that night. From the moment Mossad had mapped Soleimani's habits to the second they confirmed his flight manifest from Damascus. Every detail, every intercept, every movement was the culmination of years of covert Israeli operations, not for vengeance, but to dismantle what they saw as a growing encirclement of their state. Back in Tehran, the first news arrived before sunrise. Reports of explosions in Baghdad spread across encrypted channels. Iranian commanders scrambled to verify who had been targeted. When confirmation came that Qasem Soleimani was dead, silence fell across the room. Moments later, the silence turned to fury. In Iran's holy city of Qom, prayers turned into cries of grief. State television interrupted programming to announce what no one believed possible. The man who had commanded the Quds force for over 2 decades, the architect of Iran's regional strategy, the living symbol of resistance, had been eliminated. Inside Mossad's Tel Aviv compound, the lights stayed on. Senior officers gathered in silence as live feeds confirmed the strike's aftermath. The director gave no speech, no celebration. He simply said, "It's done. The balance has shifted. But remember, every action creates a shadow." The following hours were chaos across the region. Militia groups in Iraq went on high alert. Hezbollah mobilized along the Lebanese border. Iranian Revolutionary Guard units began preparing contingency plans for retaliation. The United States closed its embassies across several countries. And in Israel, the air defense grid moved to full readiness. Everyone knew the strike had changed everything. The reaction inside Iran was more than political. It was personal. Soleimani wasn't just a general, he was a symbol. His death united Iran's divided factions under a single banner of vengeance. Thousands poured into the streets, chanting for retaliation. Analysts warned that Iran would not respond blindly. It would plan carefully, methodically, and unpredictably. For Mossad, however, the operation was both triumph and warning. They had succeeded where others had failed, tracking and confirming one of the most elusive military figures in modern history. But they also knew the blowback would come. Iran's intelligence networks were vast, its cyber divisions sophisticated, and its allies deeply embedded across the region. In the coming days, Israeli intelligence began intercepting chatter, encrypted traffic between Iran, Lebanon, and Iraq, hinting at coordinated plans for revenge. Iran's military doctrine didn't favor rash attacks. It preferred attrition, deniability, and precision. Mossad analysts knew what that meant. The war in the shadows was about to escalate. In Washington, politicians debated the legality and wisdom of the strike. In Tehran, generals debated how to avenge it. But in the middle, in the gray secret corridors of intelligence, both sides understood something deeper. This was no longer about one man. It was about control of the unseen battlefield. The war of spies, codes, and invisible hands. As dawn broke over the Middle East, smoke still lingered over Baghdad's airport. A few twisted frames of metal were all that remained of the convoy that had once carried the region's most feared commander. The ghost was gone, but his death would awaken storms far beyond the reach of missiles. Tehran before dawn was unrecognizable. The streets that once hummed with morning prayers now echoed with sirens, the wail of ambulances, and the rhythmic cries of millions in mourning. Across every Iranian city, from Mashhad to Shiraz, men and women poured into the streets holding Soleimani's portrait, not as a general, but as a martyr. In those moments, the Islamic Republic wasn't divided by politics, class, or ideology. It was united by grief and rage. Behind the closed doors of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, the mood was darker still. The country's leadership sat around an emergency table. The president, the IRGC's top commanders, and intelligence chiefs. They all knew this moment would define Iran's next decade. One of them reportedly said, "This is not an act of war. This is a declaration." The question wasn't whether to respond. It was how. Iran's first instinct was restraint. In the opening hours after the assassination, they needed clarity. Who had coordinated it? Was it purely American? Or had Israeli hands guided the strike from the shadows? Within 24 hours, the answer came through intercepted chatter. Mossad fingerprints were all over the tracking operation. The precision, the pattern analysis, the timing, it was unmistakable. From that point onward, Iran's response wasn't about vengeance for one man. It was about reclaiming deterrence. The IRGC's Quds Force initiated Operation Martyr Soleimani, a carefully calibrated plan that would signal strength without triggering all-out war. Within days, missile silos across western Iran came online. Their targets, U.S. military bases in Iraq, specifically Ain al-Assad and Erbil, both known to host American and Israeli-linked intelligence assets. But this wasn't the only theater. In parallel, Iranian cyber units launched Operation Sejil, a wave of silent attacks targeting Israeli defense servers and civilian infrastructure grids. It was the digital battlefield's first taste of the revenge Tehran had promised. On January 8, 2020, as the world held its breath, dozens of Fateh 3113 and Qam missiles roared out of Iranian territory. It was the first open missile attack on U.S. forces since World War II, a deliberate, precise strike meant to prove that Iran could retaliate and still control escalation. At 1:30 a.m., the first wave struck Ain al-Assad base. Explosions lit up the night sky as warheads slammed into hangars, runways, and control towers. Radar systems scrambled, and sirens wailed across the desert. The Pentagon would later report no casualties. But independent analysts and satellite imagery painted a different picture. Dozens of destroyed aircraft, shattered bunkers, and injured personnel evacuated under blackout conditions. Iran's message was clear. We choose the battlefield. We set the terms. In Israel, the mood shifted from satisfaction to anxiety. For months, Tel Aviv had operated in the shadows, assuming plausible deniability. Now, the veil was gone. Iranian state media began hinting openly that Mossad had provided the intelligence behind Soleimani's killing. Online, photos of Israel's defense system circulated alongside promises of retaliation. Inside Israel's military headquarters, the Iron Dome network was set to full alert. Patriot and Arrow batteries were repositioned to cover critical infrastructure. Tel Aviv, Haifa, Dimona. But even as the defense system stood ready, Iran's cyber divisions found another way in. Over the following weeks, several Israeli infrastructure systems experienced unexplained failures. Power fluctuations, water system malfunctions, even temporary disruptions in air traffic monitoring. None caused major casualties, but each served as a message. Iran could reach deep inside Israel without launching a single missile. And when Iran's allies in the region, Hezbollah, Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq, and Houthi units in Yemen began coordinating symbolic strikes and drone flights near Israeli-controlled zones, the message grew louder. The shadow war was now out in the open. Publicly, Israel celebrated Soleimani's death as a blow to Iran's ambitions. Privately, intelligence officials were uneasy. Killing a man like Soleimani didn't see he dismantled the network he built. It only unleashed the lieutenants who had learned from him. Within weeks, new Quds Force leaders emerged, continuing operations in Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon. Mossad's post-operation assessments reflected that unease. Yes, they had achieved their tactical goal, eliminating a major adversary, but the strategic cost was steep. Iran had consolidated regional sympathy. Its influence in Iraq had grown, and anti-Israel sentiment surged even among Arab populations that had quietly supported normalization. One analyst described it bluntly. We removed a man, but we awakened a movement. In Washington, the mood was celebratory at first, but as intelligence reports came in showing the extent of the Iranian response, the damage to U.S. bases, the cyber breaches, the regional unrest, that confidence eroded. The administration soon realized that Soleimani's death didn't cripple Iran's influence. If anything, it made Tehran more unpredictable, more unified, and more determined. By early February, Iran had fully restructured its Quds Force Command and expanded its regional operations budget. Meanwhile, Hezbollah began tightening its coordination with Iran's intelligence units, while new proxy cells emerged in Syria and Yemen, a quiet but effective counterbalance to Israeli operations. The most profound consequence, however, was psychological. For decades, Israel's enemies feared Mossad's reach, the myth of an agency that could strike anywhere, anytime. But after Soleimani's assassination, that fear evolved into something else: respect mixed with resolve. Tehran had learned how far Israel was willing to go, and Israel learned how fast Iran could adapt. It was no longer a game of deterrence. It was a duel of endurance. The region settled into an uneasy silence. Both sides had drawn blood. Both sides had proven their power. And somewhere, deep beneath Tel Aviv, Mossad's analysts continued their work, watching, listening, waiting for the next move. Because in the world of covert wars, there's never really an ending, only pauses between operations.
And that was the Mossad. Back in a minute.
Nothing worth doing ever came easy. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation. Never, ever quit. Never quit. Adversity makes you stronger. Don't give in, don't back down, and never stop doing what you know is right. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedoms. They're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way.
When they couldn't beat him, they tried to bankrupt him.
President Trump is back in a New York City courtroom.
When that didn't work, they tried to put him in federal prison.
Raided by the FBI.
When that didn't work, they even tried to kill him.
He just tried to kill President Trump.
Donald Trump still stands, ready to fight, ready to win, and ready to make America great again.
This is Donald Trump's house, brother.
This election, we all get to choose. I'm going to choose real American leadership and a real American values. The 45th and soon to be 47th President Donald J. Trump.
Starting on day one, we will defeat inflation quickly and we will make America affordable again. I will cut your energy costs in half. It's time for the working man and woman to finally catch a break. We are going to bring back the American dream bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. When I'm back in the White House, we will restore world peace, and it will be again peace through strength. I will launch the largest deportation program in American history. I will put these vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail or kick them the hell out of our country. November 5th, 2024 will be Liberation Day in America. We all salute the same great American flag. Our best days are yet to come. Together, we will make America great again.
America is a land of heroes, a place where greatness is born, where destinies are forged, and where legends come to life. This is the home of Thomas Edison and Teddy Roosevelt, of many great generals, including Washington, Pershing, Patton, and MacArthur. This is the home of Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, Amelia Earhart, Harriet Tubman, the Wright brothers, Neil Armstrong, and so many more. This is the country where children learn names like Wyatt Earp, Davy Crockett, and Annie Oakley. This is the place where the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth and where Texas patriots made their last stand at the Alamo. The American nation was carved out of the vast frontier by the toughest, strongest, fiercest, and most determined men and women ever to walk on the face of the earth. Our ancestors braved the unknown, tamed the wilderness, settled the Wild West, lifted millions from poverty, disease, and hunger, vanquished tyranny and fascism, ushered the world to new heights of science and medicine, laid down the railroads, dug out the canals, raised up the skyscrapers. Our ancestors built the most exceptional republic ever to exist in all of human history, and we are making it greater than ever before. This is our glorious and magnificent inheritance. We are Americans. We are pioneers. We are the pathfinders. We settled the new world. We built the modern world, and we changed history forever by embracing the eternal truth that everyone is made equal by the hand of Almighty God. America is the place where anything can happen. America is the place where anyone can rise. And here, on this land, on this soil, on this continent, the most incredible dreams come true. This nation is our canvas, and this country is our masterpiece. We look at tomorrow and see unlimited frontiers just waiting to be explored. Our brightest discoveries are not yet known. Our most thrilling stories are not yet told. Our grandest journeys are not yet made. The American age, the American epic, the American adventure has only just begun. Our spirit is still young. The sun is still rising. God's grace is still shining. And my fellow Americans, the best is yet to come.
This is a movement like we've never seen in the history of our country.
Wisconsin is Trump country.
And that's what this fight is all about. We're taking on the failed political establishment and restoring government of, by, and for the people. It's the people. You're the people. You won the election.
We love this country. We love Donald Trump.
Promises made, promises kept.
We support President Trump. This is epic.
Donald Trump is our president.
With every last ounce of heart and hope and sweat and soul, we are going to make our stand. We are going to stand for liberty. We are going to stand for justice. We are going to stand for freedom. And we are going to stand for the sacred rights given to us by the hand of Almighty God. You joined our movement, the greatest movement in the history of our country. You protected your family. You defended your dignity. You recaptured your destiny. And you took back your country with that great election 2.5 years ago. We are one united movement, one united people, and one United States of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
You have always been loyal to this nation. Now you finally have a president who is loyal to you. Every day between now and November 2020, we are going to keep on working, we are going to keep on fighting, and we are going to keep on winning, winning, winning. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you. If I give you one message to hold in your hearts today, it's this. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation. Relish the opportunity to be an outsider, because it's the outsiders who change the world and who make a real and lasting difference. The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep pushing ahead. You must keep pushing forward. Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. In America, we don't worship government, we worship God. My administration
will always support and defend your religious liberty. There is nothing that we cannot do. There is absolutely nothing we cannot match. There is no challenge that you will let us down. You will never let us down. The people of Ohio will never let us down. This towering American spirit has prevailed over every challenge and lifted us to the summit of human endeavor. At no time before have voters faced a clearer choice between two parties, two visions, two philosophies, or two agendas. This election will decide whether we save the American dream or whether we allow a socialist agenda to demolish our cherished destiny. Your vote will decide whether we protect law-abiding Americans or whether we give free rein to violent anarchists, agitators, and criminals who threaten our citizens. And this election will decide whether we will defend the American way of life or whether we will allow a radical movement to completely dismantle and destroy it. Our radical Democrat opponents are driven by hatred, prejudice, and rage. They want to destroy you, and they want to destroy our country as we know it.
"4 years ago, we took a wrong turn and lost our purpose. We lost the strength that makes Americans who we are. If we dared to speak the truth, it was called hate speech, and our values were labeled shameful. That's when everything we care about fell apart. We surrendered our borders, our paychecks, and our courage. Our patriotism was called toxic. Men could beat up women and win medals, but there was no prize for the guy who got up every day to do his job. Now we're being asked to settle for the way things are. And we're wondering if America can make a comeback. We can. Because we've done it before. When we get knocked down, we don't stay down. We get up again. We fight. We fight. We fight.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
What will we do with this moment? How will we be remembered? Look at the opportunities before us.
This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about we the people choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
Nobody has a chronic disease burden like we have. Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
What is going on here is deeper than politics. It is deeply spiritual. We are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil.
We need to remember above and beyond that we must love our neighbors, that we must treat other people as we hope to be treated.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing.
Don't you want healthy children? Don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
I come to you today as a former Democrat. I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
People dreamed this country. And it's the people who are making America great again.
Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that you're not neutral and that the government has no rights.